Good morning, everybody, and happy Saturday morning. My name is Jason Ray. If you don't know, I usually come to you at least once a week, usually twice a week, obviously during game days. But we've been on here multiple times, almost every single day since last week, since Sunday, since the Lincoln Riley news came out. So um, so we'll come on here today for another hour and talk through things, some of the updates that we're hearing, and some of the news and some of the news and notes that I've been able to obtain through some of my sources and things like that. But first and foremost, I just want to say, so very blessed to have the opportunity to come on here and talk to you. Thankful for Mark Rogers that have initially set this up, talking with him on a weekly basis, and then this week I'm sorry, this year had the opportunity to do these live each and every week with you, either with him or just by myself individually. But you guys are what makes the show happen. So super happy that I've gotten the opportunity to do this. I'm thankful for you guys. If you haven't, um, please, I go follow me. And here's my Twitter handle, Jason Ray One. Like I said, one of the things that I've blessed over is being able to win. With being able to I'm up over 1,000 followers now. Please come follow me. A lot of Oklahoma content. We'll continue to do Oklahoma content more and more often through that medium as well. Then we'll also come on here. So we'll continue to come on here even through the off season, talk about recruiting, talk about coaching stuff like that, talk about we might even branch out and talk a little softball, talk a little basketball and things like that. If that's something that you guys are interested in, would love to do some live stuff during basketball season, baseball, softball. Super big basketball fan. Some of you guys know that I coach high school basketball on the side as well. But come follow me, and then like I said, we'll keep doing this probably on a weekly basis and talk through things. So here, let's get to what you really want to talk about. Oh, before we do that, for those that didn't watch game day or weren't watching game day, I guess Riley was on there, and he just he was received by almost a course of booze completely. So I think that's silver lining for us Oklahoma fans that are still a little bit hurt, still a little bit upset. So um, I think he's kind of getting the bad treatment nationally, which most people would expect. So, all right, so let's talk about some of the things that I've learned over the last maybe 24 hours since we went, maybe not quite 24 hours on where Oklahoma is with this. So I'll talk about some of the things that I know, and then talk about some of the things that I've been hearing that lend it to kind of believe when this is going to wrap up. I feel I feel very confident there will be an announcement on Sunday. Sunday afternoon, evening time frame. A variety of different reasons. Oklahoma really needs to name a guy. I think Oklahoma really needs to. Bob Stoops and Joe Castiglione will be in Vegas next week, I believe Monday, at least Monday and Tuesday, potentially Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Bob Stoops is going to be inducted in the College Football Hall of Fame, and they're going to be there. So I think it's important to have a guy named and really on the on the ground running, so to speak, before that time. So could be today, but I think from an announcement perspective, certainly would expect that to happen on Sunday. Would not be surprised at all to see this leaked by some national media folks, maybe this afternoon, this evening. Josie has been very close to the cuff on this, so there's not been a ton of information. But um, what has actually been, out there is a lot of rumors and nothing extremely substantiated, but some of the things that I'm hearing we'll go through. So those are the things that I know. So first, I think we need to talk about Dabo Swinney. So I think initially a couple of days ago it was leaked that he potentially was one of the people that reached out to Joe. When Joe mentioned that he um he was getting some calls from people that no one would have expected. Then obviously, Dabo Swinney would have been one of those. So I think when this all came out Wednesday, I'm still skeptical to be honest. It's just it's hard for me to believe that he would leave what he has at Clemson to come to Oklahoma. I'm not saying that it's a worse job by any stretch. I think Oklahoma, all things considered, is a better job than Clemson. Having said that, still, with how long he's been, what he's built, really kind of a dynasty there at Clemson, two national championships. I think he's won seven ACC championships in his 12 years, though, 12 years there. So, um, but there's been a lot of smoke about him over the last probably 12 hours. I think there's a lot of momentum towards him potentially being the guy. I would say that, I think it was Wednesday when initially all of this kind of came out that maybe he was potentially interested behind some paywalls. That he was a guy that many people thought would potentially be interested in this job. I kind of put it at about a 10 to 15% range. I thought that there was I thought there was maybe some interest, but the likelihood of that happening was very slim. Now I'm probably up to at least 50%, maybe 60% now, based on some things I've heard. So, what leads me to believe that? I think one thing is there was some stuff that was coming out last night. Brett McMurphy has kind of refuted that, not necessarily saying it's a done deal, but a lot that was talked about on the ESPN broadcast. A lot of people think the Clemson athletic director is headed to Miami. So, um, that obviously makes you kind of wonder and think um, right now. So I think that's one thing. The other one to think through is heard a lot of rumors about. There's a lot of folks from the Clemson side, just in terms of their players possibly leaving, just looking for different opportunities, hitting the transfer portal. So you put those two things into consideration. I think that's part of it. I think we've talked a little bit about Dabo's just extreme desire to go coach in the SEC. So he has that opportunity there. Um, so and then the fact that he does this could cement his legacy, right? You go and you win a national championship at Clemson, and then you go to Oklahoma and you bring them, and you bring Oklahoma back, and you win a national championship at Oklahoma. Then it kind of cements your legacy, and then you can kind of do what you want, right? If you want to be at Oklahoma for the long haul, if it's something that you look like you want another challenge at Alabama, so we've talked about the buyout. I think the buyout for Alabama is in the neighborhood of 40 to 45 million. I think the buyout for Clemson is around 6 to 8 million. But I think one thing that I heard last night was that if Dabo is not one of the top five paid coaches in the country at the current time, there is no buyout. Buyout is null and void. So what I've heard is basically with the contracts that Lincoln Riley has got, with the contracts um, that that Kelly has got over at LSU. Brian Kelly has gotten going to LSU, and then the up of Mel Tucker at Michigan State. He's no longer a top five highly paid coach. So I think the buyout is either very very little or maybe none at all. So I think that's something, and I think one of the things that he does have the desire to go, obviously to go coach at Alabama. But I think from everything I've heard, he's not necessarily interested in that soon. I don't know that he's necessarily interested in that, even if Saban even decides he retires, because he from his circle doesn't have a whole lot of interest in immediately following a legend like that. So I think for those of you that would be worried about him kind of bolting, quickly, I don't necessarily think that would be the case. So I put it at, like I said, 50%, maybe even up to 60. Some people that I talk to that I trust even have put it up in the 70 to 80% range. So I think that's interesting to see. I think it's kind of come together here, over the last 12 hours that possibly there's much more momentum for him than there has been in the past. If he comes over, I think from what I'm hearing, it's almost a situation if he comes over, he's obviously going to bring Venables with him as the defensive coordinator. I think it in. I mean, I think on the outside looking in, he's like, what does that do for Brent? Brent thinks he has the, he's ready for the coaching job. Some of the things that I've also heard that it could be sort of a head coach in waiting type of situation if he comes over. Um, so I think that's, yeah, I think that's interesting. And there's a comment here from Chad, that Dabo was probably the guy that Gaybacker was talking about. Yeah, I think that's possible. He had mentioned that he was not going to say that, was not going to say who it was, but I think that's very possible, of who it is, or who it was that he was mentioning a few days ago. So I still have heard a lot about Jeff Lebby being the offensive coordinator, whoever that might be, whether it's Venables or whether it's whether it's Dabo. So um, heard last night from Tommy Harris, which was on and I'm sure some of you are on there, but on one of the Twitter Spaces that's been kind of active over the last few days. Um, in that Tommy Harris had reported that he's confident that the head coach has already been named. The hire has already happened. Just the announcement is not has not come yet. So I think if that happens, well, I have no reason to believe Tommy Harris is still very connected within the program. So have no reason to believe that that's not correct. So if that if that's the case, I think it's probably you're probably either you have an agreement with someone that is currently coaching today, and they're just not saying anything, or you have the agreement with Dabo, and it's just a matter of kind of going through exactly what they need to do, really, just in terms of making the announcement. I think there's a lot of thoughts, around Oklahoma will want a kind of a unified front in terms of I think they're wanting to announce the head coach, offense, and defensive coordinators really kind of simultaneously there, whoever it is. So I think that's part of the holdup that's not been. So my thoughts on Dabo, think it would be a great I think it would be a great move for Oklahoma. Wonderful, wonderful coach, very strong, devout Christian individual to the point where he does not even allow cursing to go on in his practices. So I think that's I think that's one thing that's solid. I think there's a couple of people that had talked about this in the chat. So yeah, absolutely, Oklahoma's going to have to pay some money to get him and to get the staff that they want. But I think from everything that I've heard, I think Oklahoma understands, and maybe the money's not necessarily there yet, but I think Oklahoma understands. I think the boosters understand. I think the administration understands. If this is something that Oklahoma needs to do to be able to put themselves in a position to be successful, at the next level. I think the one thing that, and when I say at the next level, really in the SEC, right? So I think the one negative that I see with Dabo, and I guess I didn't know a whole lot about that, but his refusal to take transfers through the transfer portal. I think that's something that I don't know if that conversation has happened. If there's been an interview, I'm pretty confident that there has been at least an interview um, to this point, and I'm sure that point has been um, has been brought up because of the fact that Oklahoma, where Oklahoma's at for the 2022 and even 2023 cycle, that might be a reality. Obviously, you probably think if he's coming over, he's probably bringing some players with him, obviously some coaches with him as well. So, I think that's interesting. I think a lot of to talk through. I think a lot of people. Um, I think a lot of people would assume that he would bring some of his guys over, which is only natural. But I think a lot of folks. There's a few of the Oklahoma coaches. I think DeMarco Murray, Joe John Finley, I think Jamar Kane and Calvin Thibodeau are the four guys that I think Oklahoma would like to be able to retain. I'm sure that's not a contingent. Cale Gundy is another one, obviously, but I think those are the guys that I think Oklahoma would like to retain. So that's a possibility. I think it's even more of a possibility than it has been in the past. So I think it's really really possible. So I think there was some questions about who could possibly be the offensive coordinator. So there's a couple of guys. I mean, I still think Oklahoma wants Jeff Lebby. I think he's one of the hottest commodities from an offensive coordinator perspective. I think he's being linked and mentioned to some group of five jobs. He's being linked to some other SEC offensive coordinator jobs. But I have heard from multiple people that if offered, if the money is right, he would absolutely entertain coming to Oklahoma. Obviously, he's previously coached at Oklahoma. He has some ties within the Oklahoma program and just the state of Oklahoma in general. So you look at an immediate staff as Dabo Swinney as your head coach, offensive coordinator of Jeff Lebby, and then the defensive coordinator of Brent Venables. I think you have three quality coaches, and I think you have a clear upgrade from where Oklahoma was at before. So let's move on from him. Let's just let's go to Venables. I think Venables is kind of 1B in this kind of favorite situation. And again, I know that the consistent thought here was why, if it's Venables, why haven't they made a decision yet? And so I think or made an announcement yet. And I think part of it is kind of the staff type of situation. Um, making sure that they want to have their staff in place before they make any kind of an announcement type of thing. Um, so I think that's part of it as well. Um, so I'm still kind of 50-50 between them two. There's some other names out there, obviously, but those are the two names that I think very consistently could be the ones that are the favorites at this point. Given the fact last night that I heard that the decision has already been made, the hiring has essentially been made as well. Um, that he could possibly he could also be the guy with so no concerns about, for me, at least for me, that announcement hasn't been made yet. I think if he's the guy, would look for him to bring in Clemson defensive line coach Todd Bates potentially to be the defensive coordinator, and again Lebby as the offensive coordinator if that's the case. So those are the two favorites, I think, at this point that has been whittled down to, and we'll see what the rest of it has to hold. I've heard from multiple people, multiple sources, that this thing happens tomorrow. There's a chance, I guess, it could happen today, but I don't think it's going past tomorrow. Multiple people have really echoed the same tone. I don't know if anybody, how active people are on Twitter, but I think there was a picture leaked that there was some stands and some stage and stuff like that set up at the Everest Training Center, um, for being ready. So what I've heard is they're going through kind of a little bit of a dress rehearsal type of thing today, this afternoon, evening, and then tomorrow, probably afternoon, is afternoon, evening-ish time frame, is when an announcement might make. I mean, it could go into Monday. I would still be a little bit surprised and would be shocked if it's past Monday. I just don't think you can get past Monday because if you're past Monday, like I told you, you're looking at maybe even Thursday at the earliest to name a guy, and you're getting dangerously close to this early signing period. If Oklahoma waited that long, so I don't anticipate that. So those are the two favorites. Let's go down the line and talk about some other guys that could potentially be the guys and that we've talked about. I think there's probably about five. I think five is the extent of of the group of coaches right now that I would be willing to say that really is part of the conversation. So Dan Lanning is another guy that has gotten a lot of pub and a lot of thought. My prevailing thought that I've mentioned yesterday, that I've mentioned throughout the week, still comes through. If you're going to hire a defensive coordinator, a defensive guy, why why hire Lanning over Venables? I think the one thing that you could say is maybe you could make an argument that Lanning could be a little bit of a bigger, a better recruiter than Venables, although Venables has just stockpiled talent at Clemson. But Lanning has done a really good job. Lanning's a little bit more youthful, if that's something that you look for. Has a little bit more experience at the SEC level. I think those are the two things that. Um, those are the two things that you kind of think about, just in terms of maybe the differences between a Brent Venables and a Dan Lanning. Um, I think if he's the guy, I still think Levy's the offensive coordinator. I think that they're shooting for, regardless. I've heard some things about Graham Harrell, which is certainly a possibility as well at the offensive coordinator perspective. I've heard some things about maybe even like I said earlier, Tony Elliott could be a guy if it's a Clemson hire, whether it be Venables or Dabo. Um, it's possible. So I think those are the things that that you think about with Lanning. One of the things I continue to go back to, and it's a bit of a red flag for me that Lanning came in third in the Kansas job search. I mean, that's just something that I stick in the back of my mind when I think that's just what is it? Is it his youth? Did he not interview well? Things like that. If he's as hot of a commodity as a lot of people would think that then I would think that he would have been the guy at Kansas, or at least a little bit higher up on that list. So, I wouldn't be upset if Lanning got the job, but like I said, if they're going to hire a defensive guy, I would expect that for it to be um, for it to be Brent Venables. So. Um, the next couple of guys. So another couple of head coaches that are coaching today are guys that are potential hires. I think Luke Fickle is a guy that a lot of people have talked about. He had reportedly turned down Notre Dame. Did he turn even the opportunity to interview at Notre Dame? Did he turn that down because he had a lot of interest in Oklahoma? Did he turn it down because he's just really happy at Cincinnati? Did he turn it down because, yeah, maybe it's intriguing, but I'm in the middle of a college football playoff run um, at Clemson, and I'm sorry, a playoff run at Cincinnati, and how do I feel about moving on? Um, and how do I feel about moving on and making and bolting in the middle of the historic run for Cincinnati, because a team that if they win today is most certainly in the college football playoffs. So, but I think he would be a good choice. I mean, I think he would bring a much needed culture to the program as well. Um, so that's another choice. And then the other one is Dave Aranda. Dave Aranda is somebody that's been rumored from time to time. There's not been a whole lot of noise about Aranda, guys, but I think he is a guy that would listen if Oklahoma has interviewed or had some of those thoughts. So, um, So those are the 5 guys that I think. So I think the one common denominator, I say this and I say Joe C could be playing all of us and we could have some kind of surprise name or something that no one has really expected at all. I've seen a lot of comments about Kyle Whittingham. I don't know that that would be a great fit. I don't know that he has any interest, excuse me, has any interest in the Oklahoma job, and it just doesn't seem like it would be, a great fit. I mean, I think he would do a great job without a doubt, but I just don't think that that fit like really makes a whole lot of sense for Oklahoma. So when I think the common denominator that I see with all 5 of these coaches, and a majority of them are defensive guys, number 1. I think a majority of these guys, will instill a new level of aggressiveness, a new level of toughness, a new level of, no nonsense, a lot of new level of just kind of getting away from the country club type atmosphere that Oklahoma has had, um, over the last 5 years. Gabe Eichert has talked about this. I have kind of preached this to you guys that, I felt this year there was a lot of things going on internally, that were problematic, and it was very, very much culturally, sorry, I can't speak this morning, related. I think, Lincoln Riley over the 5 years has really just kind of chipped away at that culture that Bob Stoops had built, in his 18 years in Norman, and I think, and I think that um, Oklahoma desperately needs to get that back. I think that toughness has been missing, um, and I think all 5 of these guys would bring that to the forefront for Oklahoma this year. I think they would really play. They would really get Oklahoma off to a better start. Than Riley has been over, because we've talked about this. It's been a gradual regression from, where Oklahoma was at the beginning that he started, and then to where Oklahoma landed this year. I've pointed this out, how Oklahoma was close. Oklahoma very well should have beaten Georgia, and then it's just gone down from there. They were not as competitive against Alabama, and then even worse against LSU last year. Didn't make the playoffs this year. Didn't even make the Big 12 championship game. Um, so I think that regression has been there, but it's not to the point. It's not to the point where Oklahoma's in bad shape, right? Oklahoma um, did not play extremely well this year, really throughout the balance of the season, and I think we can understand why, at this point. But I think the reason why Oklahoma hadn't played as well, maybe as they have in the past, was because of all the things going on, behind the scenes and things like that. Not as much focus on this team from the head coach as there have been in the past. But still, Oklahoma has lost 2 games and to 2 top 10 teams. So I think that the cupboard is, far from bare, and I think the Oklahoma will continue to play well. I think strength and conditioning. Monty has mentioned this here. I appreciate you on here, brother. Um, Strength and conditioning program has went downhill. Undisciplined. I mean, I think lack of fundamentals on the defensive side. I think you've seen some of this exodus of players over the last couple of years at the quarterback position. Charleston Rambo last year, and then he had just a phenomenal year at Miami this year, over 1,000 yards going to the league, next year. And then you've seen guys like Austin Stogner. You've seen guys like, although he was hurt this year, but Theo Weiss, Jaden Hazelwood. All those kids are going elsewhere because they've not been utilized the way that they need to be utilized. So, um, now I don't know if this hire is something that will be able to, kind of bring some of those kids back, but I've heard, a lot of those kids are fairly, um, are fairly, set in maybe where they want to go. I've heard some thoughts about, So I haven't heard as much about Theo Weiss, but I've heard that Jaden Hazelwood's linked to Arkansas right now. Um, I can't remember about Stogner. I know that Stogner was linked to another program, but I can't remember just in terms. But um, I think any of these guys have the ability to get Oklahoma to the next level. Obviously, Dabo has the pedigree, being winning two national championships at Clemson, and really just kind of building um, a consistent winner year in and year out. Even this year, they struggle. They haven't been as good offensively, but um, Venables has just continued to do a great job with that defense. Another top 10 defense. So I think you see that consistently. So you guys tell me in the comments, who do you want? Who do you want? Not saying why would he come here or anything like that. Yeah, Chad, thanks. Stogner, South Carolina was where he had mentioned. Thanks for that. I appreciate that. So um, so who do you want? All things considered, not necessarily why would he come here or who do you actually of the guys I mentioned, who do you want to be the head coach of this team? So um, I would be fine with Venables or Dabo. I mean, I like both ideas. I mean, Dabo is I think the thing that I like about Dabo is you have a great coach like him, or um, or you have and then you have a tremendous defensive coordinator and Brent Venables coming over. So those are the two that I like the most. I've not been as big of a. I mean, I know that a lot of people here and a lot of people that I've seen on social media and message boards seem to be in love with Lanning. I'm not as happy. I mean, I'm not as on the Lanning bandwagon as a lot of people are. I mean, I wouldn't be upset with it, but I'm not as high as maybe some people are on him. I think Kirby Smart has built that defense, and I think he's just kind of continue to have it going and things like that. So I'll get to some of your questions. Let me know what you have. Any thoughts, any questions, any comments that you guys have? Let's see. Lenny or Venables would be a good hire. I want no part of Mike Leach. I think um, the toughness and the that perspective, I think brings very it's very limited of what he brings. So, and I think just the air raid, I still question whether you can win a championship playing that way. So, but so I wouldn't be extremely happy with that. And I think any ties. I mean, someone had mentioned this. I think it was Brent Chapman here. Um, I think I don't think Oklahoma has any interest in any ties whatsoever to the Texas Tech program anymore. So here's a comment wanting Dabo, BV and Lanning, and Lone Wolf Aranda just to piss the Baylor fans off. Um, the portal's a valid concern. I think that's something I'm fairly confident that's something that has been discussed with Dabo and just understanding his reasoning why and stuff like that. So, um, would that believe if Alabama opened up? As I mentioned earlier, I don't think I don't think he wants to be the successor, the immediate guy to follow Saban. So I think he would potentially leave, but not immediately. And I think if that's the case, we would still I think Oklahoma would still have Venables there ready if that was the case. He would absolutely bring discipline without a doubt. I think it's going to be the Georgia DC. They're waiting until it's SEC for the announcement for BV. I see this over and over again. Not saying this about you, Jeff, but I see this over and over again. And the things that I'm hearing is no. It has nothing to do with Oh, we would have heard this by now if it was Venables. That's not the case. This is a package thing. I believe that they're wanting to have just to kind of name the head coach, offense, and defensive coordinator simultaneously, as they move forward. So, and I think Joe understands that this has to be just a big home run splash hire. I don't know that I don't know that Lanning is a splash hire. I don't know that it's even a home run hire. For me, I think you have multiple people that have said no to you um, if you go with Lanning. Uh, we've talked about that before. Couldn't be a worse fit, I think, for Oklahoma, just based on what they. Yeah, don't I don't not ups- I would be upset at all with Aranda. Um, I thought that was I thought this whole thing was crazy, but like I said, there's been tons of momentum over the last 12 hours, even 24 hours of about Dabo, and I think with the athletic director potentially moving to Miami, I think that changes things a lot. And I think the challenge of coaching the SEC. So, no, I don't think anyone's delusional. It's a lot of people that are well connected to this have are are very much in belief that it is a serious candidate for Dabo, without a doubt. Landing as defensive coordinator will be a lateral move. Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I don't think Lanning would come as a defensive coordinator. You're right. It is a lateral move, and Oklahoma would have to pay them a lot. So I see Lanning as the head coach or nothing at all. Yeah, I think recruiting is going to be a big part of this. And you've got three dynamite recruiters if the Dabo situation comes. If not, you still got a dynamite recruiter, and potentially in Levy, and then obviously Brent Venables as well. Carlos, hey, thanks for joining. I have a Sooners alumni. I'm just hope the Sooners get a defensive minded coach. So sick and tired of offensive coaches. I think that's a big part of the thought process. In this hire, Carlos is really bringing a new level of defense and a new level of really just toughness to this team, without a doubt. We need a coach who is afraid of battling against the elites in the SEC. Agreed. Without a doubt. That was only because he had two generational QBs first year. Without them, they didn't win. Uh, I mean, you're right. I don't think it's a red flag. I mean, he had two great quarterbacks. I mean, you could say the same with Lincoln Riley about Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray, two generational quarterbacks. And without them, probably wouldn't have won the Big 12. Obviously, we saw when the last 2 years maybe not quite as good at the quarterback position and where that was at. I think that's interesting, Mike. Coach B is the guy that I'm not quite sure one way or the other that remains. I think that'll be another interesting part of the because you have to understand that these coaches a lot of times they're going to bring the guys with them, and some of them will just choose to go, just because when some coach leaves, um, they don't have the opportunity to um, they do have the opportunity to say no, but they don't have a job, so they want to be able to do that to obviously have the peace of mind that they do have a job. Leach would be exciting to watch, but he'd be a stopgap guy. I mean, I'd rather have. I mean, I know he wouldn't do it, but I'd rather have Bob Stoops um, be the guy. Um, how do you think Dabo would do in the Big 12? I think he would do good. I mean, I think he would do. I mean, specifically because he's got a lot of experience with Venables in the Big 12. He's got a lot of experience with Levy in the Big 12. So they have a lot of ideas and really know exactly what to do. Venables to Norman. Yeah, you've been on that. You've been on that train, money, and I'm with you. I think you know I would be at this point if it's not either Dabo or Venables. I would be a little bit surprised. I think it's one of the two of those. Jamie, thanks for the question. When do I think will be announced? I think probably everything that I've heard. I think Sunday afternoon, evening is probably when the announcement comes. They're not going to do it early on Sunday because there's the college football playoff announcements. I believe happens at 11 a.m. Tomorrow, so I don't think they'll do it during that time. I don't think they'll necessarily do it today, although it would be a bold move just to have it at 11 a.m. this morning, right in the middle of the Big 12 championship game. But I think Sunday afternoon, evening, potentially Monday, but I don't think it goes much further than that. Bad year to hire a new coach. Let Stoops take it and take OU into the SEC. I mean, I wouldn't be upset with that, but I think he's mentioned he doesn't really want to have the job full time. Um, Defense wins championships without a doubt, and they get back to balance offense and stingy defense. Completely agree with that, Danny, as well. John Clemson sucked this year because their O line was really young and really experienced. They'll be back next year. No, I absolutely agree, and they were getting better through to the end of the year. And I don't think Clemson's a team that anybody wanted to face here in the playoffs or here in the postseason as well. Which I think one thing that would be interesting in this whole thing, if it ends up being Dabo or Clemson, that there's a good chance of if Oklahoma State either loses today or doesn't get to the point where they're in the playoffs, then they have a real opportunity for Oklahoma to face Clemson in the bowl game, which would be very ironic and very interesting. Yeah, Whittingham, I wouldn't be upset with him. No, Campbell is not in the picture at all. He had basically come out and said that he's not a candidate for this job. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's a no on Jeff Levy. I think there's a lot of people that are. He's one of the hottest offensive minds out there and coordinators out there. I think he'd be a great hire. I know there's some people that, with his affiliation with Art Briles, not really super excited about that, but as well. So yeah, those are the two guys that I've mentioned as well. Martin, thanks for joining again, man. If BV and Dabo are not the guys, who would be on your short list? So I think Aranda, Fickle, and Lanning are the three guys. For me, if it's not either Venables or Dabo, I think Fickle would be my next desire, and then probably Aranda and then Lanning after that. Yeah, I think that's fine. I've heard people say that a lot as well. Very possible. That's very possible. David, thanks for coming in. Sorry, late to the chat. Is the consensus that Riley wasn't focused on this year? I think that's a big, big part of it, David. I think the focus was elsewhere. So I think that played a big, big role into Oklahoma this year, without a doubt. Austin Dabo and Venables package would be great. They have already won 2 chips. I totally agree. I think that would be, I mean, grand slam, not necessarily a home run hire, but a grand slam hire. Why not go more? Yep, makes sense. I don't think Brett. No, that's not the case. I think from everything I've heard, if Venables was offered this job, he would absolutely take it in a heartbeat. I know a lot of you fans don't want to hear this, but y'all need someone who can recruit the Southeast and get your roster. No, I think everybody understands that, John, and I think there's a lot of momentum towards that, without a doubt. Yeah, the portal is a big one, Monty. I mean, I think that it's a red flag for sure. It's the one and only that I've seen. But yeah, the portal thing is if they can get him to change his mind, I think it's a slam dunk. But if not, then I get that has to be as part of the consideration. I don't think Lane will. I don't think he'll be the job. I don't think it'll be him, without a doubt. I highly doubt whoever gets this job will be anything less than a winner. Yeah, I mean, um, all hires are big, but this one's extremely big for Oklahoma. They're in the midst of the longest national championship drought that they've ever had at the school, 23 years. Will be 23 years when the national championship is crowned this year. Sorry, 22 years when the national championship is crowned this year. Um, so yeah, I think there's a lot of desire just to get the right guy and to get a really, really good guy there. Um, let's see. Yeah, I don't know who else been interviewed. I think Dabo's been interviewed. I think Dabo and Venables, I believe, both have been interviewed at this point. Those are the two that I'm aware of. I don't know. I mean, I know there's a lot of interviews that have happened. There's nothing that's been confirmed to me. Um, I know DeMarco needs more experience, but I think he would make an amazing head coach someday. Agreed. Yeah, I think he'll. At some point, I think he will. He will be there, without a doubt. Dabo Venables, that'd be a perfect combination. I like it. Um, Butch Jones 5. Oh, that'd be nice. I mean, you could actually have some people believing that before you said 5 years for $100 million, 20 million a year. I don't think that's happening. Um, yeah, Jimmy. I think a lot of us have kind of coach fatigue here. I think we're ready for you know ready for this to be over for sure. Let's see, going through some of these. Joe Brady in a good DC. I don't think Joe Brady loves the college game. From everything that I've heard, he doesn't like the grind of recruiting. So I think that's possible. Maybe they've had a coach away because an assistant. This is one thing that I tweeted out the other day. I think maybe Oklahoma has the head coach and they're just waiting for this for a position coach. Possible, but um, so this is the other thing, Kyler. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that. There's a good opportunity. There's a good chance that there's someone that none of us are thinking about whatsoever. Um, so extremely happy to, like I said, you guys are great. We've got over 300 in here in the chat. So thanks for making this just such an outstanding show, such an excellent show. Um, we will go live immediately following any kind of an announcement that I hear, as much as I can. I'm trying to make myself available as much as I can on Sunday, tomorrow, and even today if something happened. But we will try to go live quickly when something happens. I appreciate you guys on here. Um, Please, please, please go follow me here. We'll be all over this. We'll be all over Oklahoma news at Jason Ray One. I've had a ton of guys and gals. Have a lot of people have followed. Got over 1,000 followers. Just super blessed to be able to do this and have fun with this and sit here and talk football with you guys. So enjoy the conference championship games, Big 12 championship games coming on here in about 10, 15 minutes. And then we've got a lot of different ones that are interesting to watch throughout the day. SEC championship game, Big 10 championship, and look how the playoffs are going to unfold. I see a lot of chalk today. I mean, I think Oklahoma State wins. I think Cincinnati wins. I think Michigan wins. So I think we have a playoff of Georgia, Michigan, Oklahoma State, and Cincinnati. That's my prediction. I wouldn't be surprised to see Oklahoma State jump Cincinnati into the number 3 spot based on just their track record. Wouldn't be at all shocked to see that. So go enjoy the games today. We'll be back here either at some point today, some point tomorrow, or some point Monday to get going with this. Like I said, you guys are what makes this show possible. So very, very thankful for you guys joining in. So Boomer Sooner and God bless. Have a great weekend.